Hey, Roger Martin here again from Billings, Montana. This gal talks about the Catholic charities and their responsibility to not let in Muslims, and that there are, 90,000 Christians killed a year by Muslims. This is creating tremendous problems. So you need to be careful who you connect with. Even our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we work with a lot of Catholic charities. Anyhow, it's a big problem, and she says more on this.
Candidates. I was on the ground in Minnesota doing deep dive investigations into them, and they had a joint campaign event in Minnesota. Well, I went and I confronted them, and I asked Omar why she married her brother, why they hate Israel, why they hate the Jews, why they work with terrorist organizations like CARE. And when I asked Rashida Tlaib to condemn Hamas, she physically attacked me, and she assaulted me. It's on video. You can see it. She forcefully grabbed my hand, tried to steal my cell phone, and assaulted me simply because I asked her to condemn a terrorist organization. So these are very violent people who we're dealing with here, very violent people who hate America. And so, yes, we did file, you as my representation, we filed a lawsuit against Rashida Tlaib for assault as well. And so hopefully, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. But she was served on 9/11, and we are awaiting to see what the court says.
When you were up in Minnesota investigating Ilhan Omar, you walked into certain bookshops. You remember? Because you called me and you told me. What did you find in the bookshops in Minnesota on U.S. soil, American soil, in the district of Ilhan Omar?
Well, these are Somali. This is a Somali mall called Carmel Mall, and as you know, Ilhan Omar herself is a Somali immigrant, and there's a very large Somali population in Minnesota. And they had these books in the bookstore in the mall for first grade students that were talking about killing Jews. So horrific stuff that we were seeing, just absolutely horrible stuff that is, clearly supported by Ilhan Omar in her own district, her own people, the people who voted for her, the people who are donating to her, the people who make up a large portion of her constituency. And this is the type of stuff that they're indoctrinating their children with, right? Kill the Jews, kill Christians. It's absolutely horrific. And, you could just walk into the mall, and this is just a normal day for these people, these Somali migrants who want to teach their children about murdering innocent Jewish people. So, I have never seen Ilhan Omar condemn this type of behavior. In fact, she often takes money from groups that advocate for killing Jews that have been found to be supporting Hamas. And I'm running for Congress in Palm Beach, Florida, and tomorrow Ilhan Omar is going to be 45 minutes outside of my district in Coral Springs, which of course it has a large Jewish population, and they're having a banquet for CARE. And so it's very problematic that she is a sitting member of Congress on our Foreign Affairs Committee.
She's a big problem, a lot bigger problem than most people realize. This hate and this destruction from the inside out. We're in serious trouble as a nation.
Having banquets with members of terrorist organizations like CARE.
Well, what's even more distressing, and I've said this before, is the Jewish left, helped put her in power with donations up there in Minnesota and elsewhere.
Now, this is another problem. We've talked about it before briefly, but the Jewish left is a big problem because they are a destructive group even against their own people. And he's talked about this. Larry's talked about this before. Larry Klayman has talked about this before. Very, very big problem.
Bernie Sanders accepted her endorsement and Rashida Tlaib's endorsement and Ocasio-Cortez's endorsement. Bernie Sanders is Jewish. He doesn't like to let people know that because he's a self-hating Jew. I doubt that his real name is Sanders. It was changed by his dad,
Oh, a self-hating Jew. What a deal.
And it's just unbelievable that this guy would hold himself out, as someone who believes in democracy when he's being supported by people who want to crush democracy. And it's also not just the height of hypocrisy, but it's just disgusting that people like you are branded domestic terrorists. And when you find stuff in bookstores advocating, killing Jews and Christians, I might add, Obama packed Ilham's district. He sent a lot of the Somali refugees up there. And it's interesting because, Minnesota, a lot of Nordic people, Sweden.
Wow, wow. Now we're getting some of the dirt on Obama and what he did that to get her in. It's just disgusting.
Norway, that kind of thing. They're very tolerant people, but they're learning the lesson right now as to what they let in. And, these people, that run bookstores and things like that, they're creating a culture up there which is going to be dangerous to the citizens of Minnesota. Now, this is not hate speech, if anybody's listening to me.
It's also the Catholic. It's also the Catholic Church. It's also the Catholic Church. Catholic Charities have.
Now, this is where she starts talking about Catholic Charities. But you're finding out so much more about all this. It's appalling.
Been sponsoring a lot of these migrants, and the Catholic Church really needs to, have a discussion from within and decide whether or not they really want to keep sponsoring Islamic immigration. Because look, Christians are the most persecuted people in the world. About 90,000 Christians are killed by Muslims every single year throughout the world. That's what you.
90,000 Christians are killed each year by Muslims. Wow, what a genocide! What pathetic culture and hatred.
Called genocide, right? And it's the Catholic Charities that are actually bringing in a lot of these Somali migrants and Islamic refugees from places like Syria and, other terror hotbeds in the world. And so, they need to have some level of responsibility for the destruction that's taking place in Middle America and a lot of these cities where they're doing refugee resettlement programs, and no one wants to talk about it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the Catholic Church. I mean, it's as good as any other religion, Judeo or Christian, but the Catholic Church has historically been insensitive to Jewish people, and that occurred, of course, during World War II, where they did little to nothing with regard to the Holocaust. The Pope knew what was going on. Now, Pope John Paul II, I believe, was a great man, one of the greatest men in world history. But this current Pope, who's a leftist, ultra-leftist, he's naive, and I think a lot of it, he's giving the green light, to people in the United States to misuse the good offices of the Catholic Church. But Catholicism is not the Pope, okay? He's not God, although he may think he's God. But there's nothing wrong with the religion. It's the way people practice that religion. And we find that in our own faith, the Jewish faith, because the Jewish left is almost as destructive as the radical Islamic left. I mean, they've kind of become bookends. And of course, you see what Israel's going through these days with the Jewish left. So anyway, I want to thank you, Laura, for coming on. Tell people where they can reach you if they want to donate. We have about 30 seconds left.
People can go to LauraLehmanForCongress.com, and you can sign up to follow and receive updates for my campaign, and that's where you can donate online as well.
Well, thank you for coming on. I hope people will follow what Laura is doing. We need more courageous people like Laura. Like I said, get off the couch, put the popcorn down, and let's get to work. Forget about Hannity. Let's do something real. I'll be right back with the verdict section of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
There you are. And he talks about Fox News becoming very left, too. And it is. It's disgusting. Anyhow, it's Roger Martin from Billings, Montana, and it's Larry Klayman. Great man, great prosecutor, and he gets after it. Thank God for people that stand up like he does. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.